Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you as always for your tweets. Look at this lineup. Frank Leboeuf, Steve Nicol and Craig Burley. We've had a lot of tweets about Karim Benzema, including this one. Ever told a teammate not to pass to another teammate? In case you missed this story, this was Benzema at half-time in yesterday's match against Gladbach, was caught telling Mendy in French not to pass to Vinicius, saying, "The ball, bro, on my mum's life. He's playing for the other side." Stevie, is this a big deal? Does this happen a lot?
Oh, it doesn't happen a lot at all. No, this is atrocious is what it is. For one of the senior players, and obviously one of the leaders of the dressing room, to go number one and tell anybody not to pass the ball to another player, and then to turn around and say that he's actually against us. I mean, I'm not quite sure it gets any worse. It's almost saying he's a double agent. So no, it doesn't get any worse. And of course he's telling one of the newcomers in Mendy and one of the younger players. So what's he going to be thinking? I'm being told not to pass the ball to one of my own team. I mean, absolutely disgraceful.
Frank, do you agree?
It is disgraceful, but I think it can happen, and I would have done differently. I would have gone to Vinicius and I say, "What's wrong with you, my man? It seems to be like you play against us today. So wake up and make sure you're gonna do the right thing." But he went to Mendy, who played on the same side of Vinicius, so must be a reason why he did it. I think it's not very nice, especially doing it on the corridor where you will have all the cameras and the microphones. No, it shouldn't happen. But it can happen, and I think remembering Zola saying to me, "Frank, don't give the ball to Craig Burley today. He doesn't feel good." But that's it.
Yeah, but I wasn't 19 or whatever he is. And that's the difference here. It's it's bad enough if you're falling out with an experienced teammate and he's having a bad day, but it's like Benzema's never had a bad game or a bad season, and to do it to a youngster who is clearly feeling the pressure of the situation at the moment, and we've seen big players crumble at Real Madrid, is really out of order. But I can top that, but not in a sense of such high profile players. But I when I was before Frank got to Chelsea many moons ago, I was, as a youngster, I think I was about 17 or 18, and I was playing in Chelsea reserves, and we were playing at home, and we had a young Scottish lad similar age to me playing left back, a young guy called Steve Nicol, and the coach, because back in the day they didn't really do politically correct and all that nonsense, shouted on during the reserve game to the goalkeeper and at the top of his voice, "Don't throw the ball out to Steve Nicol," who was a left back. Now, how does that make you feel when it's not your teammate, it's not telling, it's the coach that's telling the goalkeeper not to throw the ball out to him because he was having a shocker? But it really shouldn't go on, to be honest.
Stevie, Benzema kind of...
Dan, I think it's important that we put this in the right context. Listen, we've all during a game had a teammate who's having an absolute shocker. And so what you do is, if there's another option, then you take the other option. That is perfectly acceptable. Anybody would accept that.
Right.
But it's not acceptable to go around telling other players on the team, "Don't give him it," and then say he's against us. That is completely unforgivable.
Stevie, Benzema pretty much unrepentant today on Instagram, saying, the dogs will bark, the number 9 will keep playing. If you were Zidane, how do you handle this situation?
Well, I tell you, the only way you can handle it as a coach, you get them in front of the whole squad and you give them a dressing down and tell them that you're in charge, you're running the team, and how dare you disrespect any of your teammates. That's the only way, because clearly by the response of Benzema, he thinks he's Bertie Big Spuds. He thinks he's the man. He thinks he's the big shot. With that answer, I mean, a humbler person would have explained the way that we tried to about if somebody's having a bad day. But to turn round and double down and act as though you can't be reproached about anything, the only way is to dress him down and make sure he does it in front of the rest of the team, and he has to apologise as well.
But you don't feel that's quite Zidane's way, Frank?
I'm not sure. I don't know what happened in the dressing room, and I won't talk, without knowing. Maybe Zizou said something to Karim. But I agree with Stevie. It should be said in the dressing room to make sure that it doesn't happen anymore, and that Karim will explain what he really wanted to see or to say to Vinicius. But again, as I said, Benzema is a leader and he's a vice captain of Real Madrid. He could have gone to Vinicius and say, "Hey, my man, we love you, but wake up. Today you're having a shocker, so wake up because we need you. Otherwise, we don't give you the ball anymore." That would have been straightforward. That would have been simpler, and that would be nicer.
Let's move on to would love Stevie's thoughts on the play of Maguire, who seems to have his confidence back, and the 1v1 play of Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka has to be the best defensive right back on the planet. Never gets beat and reads angles very well. Not great attacking, but is a true defender. Your thoughts?
No, absolutely. The best defenders, they feel it when it doesn't go for them. And he clearly feels it. He doesn't want to get beaten, and it matters to him. So I can't argue with that. Maguire, I think it's a little early to turn around and say Maguire is back to where he was before. It's been a couple of games, but it's been a couple of good games. Manchester United today against Leipzig, for example, without that back five, would have been up against it. Whether it was a combination of the back five, including Maguire being solid and good and making good decisions, or just how bad Leipzig were going forward in the attacking third, but a combination of both. So yes, I guess it's yes so far to both. Good couple of games from Maguire, and yes, Wan-Bissaka enjoys defending as much as anything else.
Frank, is Alvaro Morata just unlucky with his goals disallowed by VAR? It was a hat-trick today, wasn't it? Or should he work on his positioning more?
Yeah, you can score 5 goals as long as you're, offside. You're offside, so it doesn't count. Unlucky, I don't know. I mean, we saw him so many times, and I think Craig mentioned it, playing for Chelsea and being offside so many times, and goals have been disallowed. And I think that guy has to wake up. I mean, he had the chance to play for the biggest club in the world, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Chelsea, Juventus. I mean, who has been that fortunate without showing too much? And you have the chance to be served, by great players. And if you're all the time, offside, even if it's just an inch, is too much. And you waste times and you waste chances to score. And today, that was a waste 3 times. So, no, he's not unlucky. He has to be careful.
They were close, though, Craig.
Yeah, but I mean, he was the third one. He was a little unlucky, but we've seen it time and time again with Morata. He makes the runs at poor times, and he didn't have to go so early for, I think it was the second offside decision, which was actually a good finish. But we saw him, for those that watched him at Chelsea, he did it so often it was unbelievable. Look, the guy's not a natural goal scorer. Go back through his clubs in the last 6 or 7 seasons, and he's got like 6 or 8, or I think his best was 15 in the league. He's not a natural goal scorer, but he's had some heck of a moves, for somebody that's not pinging in 25 goals a season. But he doesn't time his runs. He hasn't timed his runs particularly well, and I can only see him being a squad player there when everybody's fit.
Stevie, do you think Liverpool should sign Conor Coady back from Wolves, or is it too risky because he doesn't play in a 4 at the back? That's a big breath.
Ooh, that's a tester. That's a tester, though. He's been a huge part of why Wolves have done well. His distribution at the back has been fantastic. I'd suggest he's more of a sweeper than an actual centre back, and actually Virgil van Dijk does both of these things. He's a sweeper and he is a centre back when it's needed. So I wouldn't go and sign Coady, but that's not to say he hasn't been fantastic for Wolves.
Craig, completely off topic, we've been talking about grudges over the last few days. Shaka still remembers a journalist who wrote a bad article about him. Stevie's got a couple of players that he knows that he still very much holds a grudge against. Where are you on the grudge list? Is there a journalist that wrote something bad about you, or a player that did something you didn't like that means you'll never forgive them?
No. Lots of journalists wrote things. We've all had it, and you know, you meet them in a hotel foyer if it's international games or on a flight or wherever it is. But I went on to work with a lot of those guys, and quite a few of them I said, listen, I know you wrote that and you did this and that's your job, and I don't have a problem with it. So I really feel when you move into the media, it's quite hypocritical then to have a problem with journalists because they wrote something about you, because we're all going to have or should have a strong opinion on players, and that's what they did with us. So no, actually I don't. I know you probably angled that question because you thought I was going to probably be the one with the most grudges, but actually I don't have an issue with any players I played against, and I don't have an issue with anybody who wrote something derogatory about me, as long as it wasn't personal, i.e. family or something. If it was football, wasn't an issue. You just got to suck it up and take it. And there's nobody in our business that I don't speak to because or I wouldn't go over and speak to if I met them in a press room that said something bad about me or wrote something bad, because guess what? We've all had bad games at times, and people have got to do their jobs.
Why are you smiling, Stevie?
That's surprising.
Hey Dan, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, how about we turn it around the other way and put on Twitter, anybody with a grudge against Craig Burley, could you please get in touch? you could probably fill a show. I think
that's
you know,
right.
every Celtic fan in the world, every Chelsea fan in the world, and then add a couple of million more at the top of that.
But that's fans, Stevie. That's different. You know, fans are fickle. They've got the old brain blinkers on. You know, they only see it. They only see it their way. They want to hear. They want you to say what they want to hear. But in terms of, you know, I'm sure there's players, because when you go into the job and if you do it strongly, there are players. And listen, I didn't like it. I didn't like it when I played, but it was part of it. But you know, I had a couple of guys wrote some really stinging stuff over the years, but I don't, you know, even somebody wrote some stinging stuff about my early broadcasting, and I still speak to them. It's part of the job. I don't really hold grudges in that respect.
Marcotti's on every day. You got to talk to him. Frank, what about you and grudges?
I had one journalist when I was the first time that I was called for the national team, who wrote a half page on L'Equipe saying that I had nothing to do with the national team, that I was already too old, I was 26, and that he could name like 6 players who could have been at my place, where on the 6 players, I think 4 were injured. So when I would join the national team, Aimé Jacquet said to me, I don't want you to answer to him, otherwise you're going to go back to your house. So I just went to the guy and I shook his hand and I said, well, I'm Frank Leboeuf and I want to make sure, because you don't seem to know me very well, so I'm going to show it to you on the field and I want to introduce myself. I think he didn't like it at all.
Go on, Frank. That's a good response. Get that World Cup medal and shove it in his face. Right.
Exactly.
Stevie, we all know the qualities of Aaron Wan-Bissaka as a tackler, but who was the best tackler you played with and against? Big breath.
Oh.
Well, it depends. There's a lot of different ways to. There's a lot of different ways to slant that. I mean, there was plenty of guys that tackled that. It wasn't them that got injured, shall I put it that way. I mean, just raw power. I mean, Stuart Pearce was a guy who just was fearless when it came to challenging. He'd be a guy when you went for a ball with him, you knew you had to go back with every single thing you had, otherwise you were in trouble. You know, older guys like Jimmy Case were feared by, you know, if you went for a 50-50 with Jimmy Case, then the only thing that would happen was, A, he would get the ball, and B, he would probably take half of your legs with him at the same time, so not many people went near him.
Well, as a youngster, Stevie, I played in the reserves at Chelsea at 17 or 18, and I played against Jimmy Case, who I might be wrong, but I believe at that point was in the reserves for, I think it was Southampton, and he scared me.
Yes.
I mean, he scared me. I thought to myself,
he scared a lot of people.
Everybody in the Premier League is like this, I'm going to get a different job. I'm telling you.
Craig, what was it about him that scared you?
Yeah.
He was solid.
Right.
Well, he was obviously he was coming towards the end of his career, and I was, at 17, I wasn't fully, I needed to get on the weights, put it that way. I was a bit skinny. And if he clattered me once in the middle of the park, and I was like, oh boy, that hurts. And I thought, I got it. This is how strong these guys are. Some of them, and he would be, well into his 30s at that point. But as Stevie said, he was absolutely rock solid. Stevie mentioned Stuart Pearce. His thighs were enormous, but he was aggressive and he would be vocal and he would snort and he'd tell you. But one of the best ones for tackling and reading the game and probably going to ground not very often was Dennis Irwin at Man United. Fantastic going forward, but a great defender. You very rarely saw Dennis on his backside because he was either in a good position or he was able to read it properly. So guys like that, really, when we talk about the Trent Alexander-Arnolds and all these guys, Andrew Robertson, who's not a bad defender, but people like Dennis Irwin and Stuart Pearce did all these things, going forward, and then defended brilliantly as well.
Do you know, Dan, you're talking about defending as well. We're talking about Wan-Bissaka earlier. Now, I'd have to say that he does end up on his backside too many times. Craig's talking about Dennis Irwin. You very rarely saw Dennis on his backside. And that's because his starting position was so good. So if there's one thing Wan-Bissaka needs to work on, it's his starting position so that he doesn't have to go sliding into players. Because the fact that you're doing that so often, your starting position is in the wrong spot. But as long as he still makes the challenge, then he's getting away with it. But as soon as he loses half a yard of pace or any sort of pace at all, then he's in trouble because of his starting position.
Frank?
For me, that I played with, I played against as well, was Vicente Lizarazu, playing on the left side, full back. That guy was like a dog, biting your calf, during the game for the 90 minutes. And after his career, he became a Brazilian, he did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and became European champion as well. So that guy is a real fighter and never gives up. Fantastic. But Stuart Pearce is the best example for me of a defender capable of going forward, scoring goals on free kicks, having a fantastic shot, going forward and being a treacherous defender because he was completely fearless and you were scared and he was coming in front of you. Fantastic defender. I mean, I played once or twice against Nottingham Forest. That was something unbelievable that I will always remember.
Great stuff, guys. Thank you very much. There is a concern about... Yeah, go on, Stevie.
Just the last one. You need to ask Xhaka about a teammate of his.
Xhaka's
a guy called
not on.
Avery John. He actually played for me at the Revs. The people in MLS, nobody would go near him because he would take everything. They wouldn't get near him. Avery John, you need to ask Xhaka.
Okay, I will do. Stevie, there's concern about your background. It seems to be sloping more than normal. Is everything all right? The house foundations haven't gone or anything?
No, it's probably me. It's probably me that's sloping. I've been sat in a chair so long today.
Hey, stop itching your leg. You're on the TV.
Right. Hold on. Is that me? Do I look level yet?
Yeah.
No, you're going the other way.
No, you have to go on the right. You have to go on the right. You have to go on the right.
Wrong way.
Don't do this again.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah,
much better.
That's brilliant. That's really solved it.
That's it, right.
Thank you very much, guys. We'll be back here tomorrow for more. Till then, goodbye. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPNFC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.